Good evening, everybody. Tuesday night. It's a special Tuesday night this time. As we know, we normally do episodes on Wednesdays or Thursdays or Fridays, but we're going early in the week this week, which is really exciting for episode 96 of So What's Been Happening. We're creeping slowly up towards the number 100, which should be exciting. For people who are not familiar with this podcast, it all started off during the COVID, the dirty years of COVID that we all got shut down, and just reached out to a couple of friends and had a chat just about life, and it kind of all snowballed from there. Obviously, with the music industry closing down pretty much overnight, like so many other industries, we decided to jump on and have a chat. We chatted to some fellow musician mates, and the story kind of spread from there. So here we are today, outside of COVID, thank God, but also being able to chat to fellow artists and friends, and people from all walks of life, really, which has been super. And we look forward to continuing it well past 100, hopefully. But let's get to 100 first. And tonight, an exciting episode with Mark Moldre. This should be a really good chat, and I thank Chris Hamilton for hooking this up for me. In his suite of artists that he looks after from a publicity point of view. So we look forward to having chat to many more in the next few weeks. And in fact, we've got a show tomorrow night as well, which we'll talk about a little bit later, or I'll mention as we get out to the end of the show. But all right, it's just me tonight too, absolutely. So me and Mark one-on-one, which will be really exciting. So the boys pass on their apologies. They couldn't make tonight, but it should be an interesting chat. So look forward to it. Welcome, a part of episode 96, Mark Moldre. Welcome, Mark.
G'day, Aaron. How you doing?
Good. Firstly, I hope I got the pronunciation of your name correctly.
I was actually going to say that. You're one of the few. Yeah, you got it right first go.
Fantastic. That's great.
Usually I get Moldre and Moldre. And lately, because of Mark Moldre, who's an author, I've been getting confused with him a lot. So
right,
you got it right first go.
Okay, well, let's go with that. And a nice little tinge of green I see on the show tonight, both in the background and also that nice shirt you're wearing. So
it must be. It's like in
your theme, absolutely. So look forward to it. All right. Firstly, thanks for joining us on show episode 96 of So What's Been Happening. As I mentioned, how this show kind of came together, and it's fantastic that we can reconnect and connect with artists that we didn't know previously. So, where do we find you tonight? Where in the world are you tonight?
I'm on the Central Coast. I've actually only just moved house. So, yeah, we moved house about a month ago. But I'm in Terrigal. Nice sunny part of the world.
Absolutely, no doubt. Haven't unpacked all the boxes yet.
We've actually been pretty good. It's we've moved into a smaller house, so the only thing that's happened is I've got loads of boxes in the garage and loads of furniture in the garage from the house that we were in. So there's a lot of stuff we just couldn't fit in the house. So I can't get in the garage at all at the moment.
Okay, so what's in the house is unpacked. Fantastic.
Yeah, nice. Pretty much. But garage sale incoming.
Oh yeah, I bet. That's all part of the fun of the fair, isn't it? With moving houses, that's for sure. Hopefully, it was a relatively painless house move this time.
It wasn't too bad. I've certainly had worse. We had lots of help, so that always makes it easier.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, let's go back to kind of where it all began. What's your first memory of music growing up as a kid, and how old were you?
My first memory of music probably is when I was a kid, I had two really close friends who were still in my band. So when I was about 5 or 6 years old, I met Scott and Jamie Hutchings, who play guitar and drums in my band. And one of my earliest memories is probably with them. When we were 7 or 8 years old, we started doing mimed Beatle concerts for our parents, which we charged them to come and watch. Awesome. And we taped cellophane over the light bulb, so the room looked all blue. We'd put on a Beatles record, and we'd have at first we had tennis rackets with guitars stuck to them, and vacuum cleaners for microphones, and yeah, we used to mime to Beatle concerts. That and plus the fact that their dad, Scott and Jamie's dad, was a jazz saxophone player, and I heard so much music in their house just because he was playing all the time, and always had jazz on. That was those two things are probably my two earliest memories. One other that comes from my own dad. He had one of those old kind of 8-track tape recorders in his car. You know, they used to take like a really big cassette.
Yeah, yeah.
And he only had one of those cassettes in the car, and it was Harvest by Neil Young. So I've got lots of memories of sitting in that car and just playing that over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I can still remember that car really clearly in my head. And that record, as soon as I put it on, it just brings back memories of the car. Yeah, so those few things are probably my earliest musical memories.
Two pretty cool lineups too to have as great memories. A lot of people have tragic memories of some of those first songs that mum and dad used to listen to, and the classic kids concert played for mum and dad. Mate, could you find a better band than the Beatles? So do you remember which album it was?
Help a lot at first. Yeah, lots of Help. And man, we made them sit through a lot because we started doing them all the time. And we do side 1 and 2. You know, you'd have to have a little intermission, and they'd have to sort of wander off and come back. But yeah, we made them sit through a lot of music that way.
The great part is you got them back for side 2. Fantastic. They didn't send you to bed by then. So, mate, that's really cool to hear a story that's growing up together as such young kids and still ending up in a band after all these years is quite an amazing story. So what was the instrument of choice for your first kind of foray into music?
I went to guitar pretty much straight away. I think my mum bought me a guitar when I was about 9. That was my first instrument. So I started playing it lots. So I think by the time I was about 11, I was having lessons. So yeah, it was guitar, and I never really let it go. It's always been guitar.
Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic. And any music background in the rest of the family?
In my family, no. So there's no one else who played an instrument. I don't really know where it came from, and I always say it came from listening to Scott and Jamie's dad sort of practice at home. Because he was a gigging working musician, he'd just be playing scales and arpeggios and things. We just hear him all the time in the kitchen. I remember him standing at his dining room table with his sheet music on the table, just practicing and practicing. He played with a lot of famous people too. Like he was working with people like Sinatra. He was on the Midday Show for years. He got to play with a lot of people and do a lot of shows. I think the biggest influence was him, and in my later years too, I got into jazz, and that would have been through him as well. And I had the privilege of playing lots of shows with him as well as I got older. So that was a pretty incredible thing for me.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, what an awesome person to surround yourself with, and probably not even really initially by choice. It was just kind of the kids over the road, no doubt, that you kind of hung out at, and you just happen to surround yourself, be swept up in music and not sport in that stage. That's pretty cool. Whereabouts in Australia was that?
At the time, I was living in the eastern suburbs. Okay, so we were living in a flat in Vaucluse. And they were living a few blocks away from me.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, well, in some respects, it probably was.
I've moved about 14 times since then, but their family is still in the same house.
Oh wow, that's crazy. You've done the tour, and they've stayed at home.
So and through the years, we've had so many rehearsals and things at their house, over the years. So it's just become a center point through my life as far as music goes, without a doubt.
Yeah, really cool. So, and are you lucky enough that music's part of your full-time gig now, or how has it been for you, or is it really just still a a music love on the side?
Yeah, it's because it has become a full-time thing, but not out of playing my own music, that's for sure. I teach.
Yep.
So I teach guitar during the day, which allows me to kind of work my own hours and still write music and do my own thing, play gigs if I need to, or find a balance where I'm doing something creative, and sometimes the teaching becomes a drudge, even though it's music. Yeah, but it's I found a good balance over the years. It hasn't always been like that. My trade was a signwriter.
Yeah, right.
So I sort of left school, and my dad was a signwriter, and I went to TAFE and learnt the proper trade, with a mold stick and a brush, and
I did too. Yeah.
Oh, did you do that too?
That was my background. Yeah, I think I was officially one of the second last batches of actual signwriters where they used paint and a mold stick, and paint on the wall and do all those sorts of things. So
like I did the whole thing with the airbrush, and I did my TAFE course with all my lettering, and almost by the time I'd finished the course, it was now a defunct.
Yeah,
it was over. Oh. It was a computer operated job, so I think it's a real shame. And man, you don't meet many signwriters. That's why I jumped when you said that, because it's just not very often you hear someone go, yeah, I was a signwriter.
Yeah, absolutely. My old trade school teacher still, he's not retired, only a few years now, but he's still doing gilding on glass and all sorts of things, and trying to teach kids that are interested. So it's not totally dead yet. You still see it out there.
Become like a boutique art, hasn't it? Like, it's I know there's pockets in America where there's still signwriters. There was an interesting documentary a couple of years ago that came out that was interviewing lots of guys in America who were still, using the brush. We went from the brush to doing hand cut letters, and then it was the computer cut letters, and now it's the digital printing. The whole fun's gone out of it, and I kind of lost interest because I really loved the creative side of it. I didn't like the idea of just sort of using fonts on the computer and typing it all in and hitting print.
Yep.
As has happened with, and seems to be happening more and more with creative stuff.
Sure.
It just seems
I suppose there's similarities to that in the music genre now, where people are pretty much recording albums without actually playing an instrument, which is pretty bizarre. But it's great to hear that and that's kind of why we we resonate to people like yourself, where playing live is still such an important part and such a great outlet, and such a magic part in the arts community still. So thank you for continuing to do what you do.
I almost can't imagine not doing it. It's just, it certainly doesn't pay the bills when you're doing it. You're playing your own music. It's really, really hard to make it pay the bills.
Yeah, definitely.
I can't imagine stopping.
Yeah, awesome to hear. So, all right. Speaking of doing what you do, we're gonna get you to play something for us. Mark, kind enough to offer your time for us. So, what have you got for us?
I've got a song off my. This is off the new album. This is it's called New Suit. I've got a new suit, got a new shirt and tie. Hold your breath and don't you cry. Get up off the floor. Her love don't live here anymore. I've got a new suit. Gather round to say goodbye. Lilac burn November sky. All we have now came before. Your love don't live here anymore. Lay it down, lay it down. I'll see you around, I'll see you around sometime. I told the birds not to sing, just take a prayer upon your wing. The silence that is deafening, she's crying at the door. Your love don't live here anymore. Your love will live forevermore. 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 I got a new suit.
Thank you, mate. Beautiful. Fantastic.
Thank you, mate.
That feeling of a new suit. One of our friends on the show, Mark Burke, he was a suit specialist back in the day. He had every microfiber color there was back in the 90s. So new suits were very much part of his resume. So shout out to Berkey, good friend of the show. So just tell us a little bit about that song, mate, and then I would just want to play a snippet of that clip because I think this is a really cool clip too. So maybe you can talk us through a little bit this clip, and then we'll play the touch from the start.
Sure. This song, I wrote this album not long after my mum passed away. That's my mum on the album cover in that green emerald dress there, and that song was pretty much about, the funeral day, to be honest. Sort of putting on the suit and sort of having to go through the motions as you do at a funeral, and you're pretty much just counting down the hours for the day to be over. But that song came sort of, I don't know, maybe about a year later. I've sort of struggled writing the material straight away. I had been planning on working on a new record and touring and stuff before my mum got sick, and a lot of stuff got put on hold. But I kind of couldn't write for quite a while. There was nothing coming. I was finding it hard to write anything without writing about what I'd been through. And at first you feel like you don't want to do it, and then when it comes, you don't like what you write. So I probably wrote that one about, I don't know, that was maybe the second or the third song that seemed to come along.
Yeah.
After the songs began flowing, which man, that certainly took a while.
Yeah. So obviously an emotional period, and sorry to hear that news, but how was it really for you? You mentioned the kind of length of time that it take, and you didn't like the content necessarily that you put out. That's a really interesting comment. Where did you kind of get it to from there? How does something you put down in words then you not like the content? Was it a case of scrap it, or was it a case of
There was a lot of scrap.
Yeah,
there was a lot of stuff where I'd write. It was especially the lyrical content. I always, I can always write melodies, and I had plenty of chord progressions and melodies in my head, but it was the lyrics, and I think the trouble is when you're in the middle of something and you're so close to it and it's just happened, there was too much, it was too close to the bone for me. It was too personal, it was too raw, and I was reading some of it back, and it felt like Hallmark cards, and I was trying really hard to not write like that, but that's how it was coming out. And it's just, it's obviously just dealing with sadness and sentiment and nostalgia and all of those things, and it can come out soppy. And I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want to write music that was kind of too much like a Hallmark card.
Mm.
So I decided to stop. I stopped writing for a while altogether, and I certainly couldn't write in my home environment. I think that's where I was really struggling. In the home environment, it was hard. So I think the day that I opened the water gates, I went to the beach and I sat down with a notepad and just wrote off the top of my head, just a whole lot of stream of consciousness. And that was how the first song came. I almost ended up with what I wrote on the page that day at the beach, word for word. It ended up in a song, and that was I think the first single that I did, which was called "Every Waking Hour."
Yeah,
and I used that as the springboard. I realized once I started doing that, what was coming out was much better than me trying to think too hard about what I was trying to say.
Mm.
Yeah, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, it does. I'm just going to play a little. We'll come back to New Suit in a second when I play that clip, but it just touch on the Every Waking Hour. And as soon as I saw that clip, I was just really intrigued by your method of your clips that you've put together as well. So we'll chat a little bit about that, but let's just play 30 odd seconds of that.
Sure.
Here it is, Every Waking Hour.
When you left, my view of the world shrunk, indisposed like a monk. Looking back and seeing nothing overlapping, all the years meditating like a dog under a tree, just like me. No ideas are forthcoming. You blocked up all my plumbing. Slow waking dreams I can't erase. My mind's adrift without a trace. I'm a ghost afraid to leave. You see me.
Yeah, it's a really cool clip. Thanks for that, putting it together. It's just a classic. Like everyone flicks through an album, and seeing all these great memories, and then to see you there singing in amongst it, and just tell us a little bit about that clip. It was really well put together.
I was actually at the lady's house where I filmed that yesterday. She's one of my students, so she's got a property out at Pete's Ridge, and we went out to her house to do it there.
Cool, great spot.
My wife films most of my clips. We do them on the phone. I've been doing them on the phone for ages. So it's all just done on the iPhone. And she just followed me around while I sang it in a whole bunch of different spots around her property. And she had this old orchid kind of farm that was there as well. So there was this cool kind of big, long orchid farm tunnel that was all kind of dilapidated. We filmed some of it there. And then I came home, and like you said, I had loads and loads, especially, as you do after you lose a parent or something, you tend to start looking through all the photo albums. And I was digitizing my dad's albums. I went over to Dad's house and started bringing back all their photo albums and just started digitizing the whole collection. And then I just kind of thought, well, the first clip, it gives a good idea of kind of what the album was going to be about, what the song was about. It certainly fit, and I just chopped up lots of those photos and just edited them into the clip with me wandering around the property.
Yeah, it's really, really well done, well edited too, and there's something. Yeah, I instantly think of that track now, and I just think of all these pictures in my head of my own life. So it's kind of really cool that can help do that. Yeah,
that means it works, because that's kind of what you hope, is that people don't walk away thinking about your memories or whatever, because that would make no sense, but that it becomes a springboard for people interpreting that however they like, or
absolutely,
reimagine their own memories. Yeah, that's sort of what you hope is going to happen. And that's
Yeah.
another reason why I don't like writing things so that they're telling too much of an obvious my story. I think that was part of why, when I was writing and scribbling and throwing things and chucking them away, you want people to be able to relate on their level to the things that you're writing, and not necessarily boring them with your own story. You know, you're trying to get other people to relate and interpret things themselves. And I think, well, I tried really hard for there to be a certain amount of interpretation with the lyrics, you know.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of clips, we're going to flick back to New Suit for a moment and just play a little bit of this. I really do like this clip, and I know I just mentioned how much I like all your clips, but in this one in particular. There's a lot of powerful kind of content there, especially when you reflect back and once you've walked me through the song or talked me through the song. It's there's a lot of thinking time when you're sitting there reflecting, I guess.
Yeah, and that clip was just going to be a road trip with me just driving in the car, but I kind of had an idea, you know, a couple of days before, that I was going to stop past my dad's place. And the end of that is my dad sitting outside our family home on the driveway, with the idea that the clip kind of culminated on me picking Dad up on the day of Mum's funeral, you know, so we both got the suits on and getting into the car. But it kind of, strangely enough, I kind of thought that was a bit of a weird, quirky ending and that no one would really get it. And I got lots of messages after that came out where people were like, "Oh, that bit with you know, your dad at the end sitting out the front of the house, that really hit. It seemed to hit people emotionally." And that was a nice little kind of happy accident that it kind of worked out that way, because I just thought I was doing something quirky. I think it had a bit of an emotional punch, which was good. Yeah,
well, if ever anyone wants to check out the rest of those clips, markmoldre.com, have a look through there, look on the YouTube channel, and that's where there's a few clips there, and you'll really like that one especially. So I urge you to check it out pretty quickly. All right, Mark, we're going to break it up by playing another song for us, if you don't mind.
Sure. This one's from the new record as well. This is called Wisteria Sleep. Nothing changed at all, just a new species of silence. The words that tumbled out just float up to the ceiling. Useless vowels and consonants, devoid of any meaning, hanging in the air like the plague. Stained sentences and black mold in my mouth. No words, no words, no words left to say. It's a dream within a dream. So this can be the end, our Lord, a takeaway Chinese. Here's a throw rug for your knees. As the trees all bend to carefully listening. There's something not quite right here. There's something not quite right. The lamp speaks while I can't sleep, telling stories of the dead. My wife breathes like rising, falling leaves that spiral round my head. 9 easy steps to the end. 9 easy steps to the end. Bloodstains on our doorposts as the angels light the pyres, and they chase the futile winds while our sorrow spread the fires. There's something not quite right here. There's something not quite right. There's something not quite right here. There's something not quite right. And the prophet raised his hands in the air. He said, do not despair. Just stand over there. Swallow your grief. Get some relief. Take these tablets to sleep. There's something not quite right here. There's something not quite right. There's something not quite right here. There's something not quite right. There's something not quite right here. There's something not quite right. There's something not quite right here. There's something not quite right. And if I make it, I'm gonna follow a long narrow road that leads to Nambucca, a small silent farmhouse. And I think she left the light on.
Beautiful little ending there. Snuck up on me, actually, to be honest.
It does a bit.
Yeah, it's a great little line to finish off about the light being on. What an important one, really, for us. So just on that song, what is it for you that wasn't quite right?
I guess looking back on the very, very quick period of time that we had from Mum's diagnosis to the end, it was the whole thing just felt like a kind of a crazy, very brief dream. And I think that's where that line came from. You know, I spent a lot of nights just kind of sleeping at the hospital in Mum's ward there, and I think that's where that line sort of came. You know, it was sort of sitting there, it just feeling all kind of so surreal. Yeah, and once again, I was carrying around a notepad like I just about always do, and or I've got my phone with using my notes, or just singing something straight into the phone. And I end up with lots of weird little snippets all over the place. But yeah, that line came from that period, without a doubt.
Yeah, pretty powerful line. Can mean so much. But I'd actually just love to see it, that word on, or that notation on a t-shirt, actually. Something's not quite right here. I mean, it's a great conversation starter, isn't it, really, for a lot of people that would be holding something in, or even visualizing seeing something. There's so many things that aren't right in the world, and so many things that we don't see in the world inside other people's heads. So yeah, I think think about that one. There's one for your merch.
That's actually not a bad idea. I might. You've got me thinking about that one. That might happen.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Send an XL my way if you do. But all good, mate. Look, obviously you spoke a little bit about the songwriting process for you. What was the first album you kind of thought first song on this album in particular that was kind of done first and you thought that's it, that's finished?
It was probably Every Waking Hour. And that was because of that, just straight down on the piece of paper. And I almost didn't change a word of it. That all just came out in one go. And that hardly ever happens, because I sit there agonizing over verses and, moving lines around and changing and editing. And I just decided, no, you know what, that all just came out at once. It kind of makes weird, random sense. And I liked it. And I just went home and tried to sing it. And the melody almost happened straight away. It was one of those moments where that never happens for me. And that was that was the thing that made me want to, keep writing and work my way through the rest of the record. But that doesn't mean it was all easy after that. It was still a really hard record for me to write. And that song that I just played, I had an earlier lyrical version of that, which I remember sending to Jamie, because I was using Jamie, the guitarist in my band, as a sounding board. And I sent him the lyrics, and I knew by his response he thought that there was something there, but I hadn't quite got it yet. He suggested a couple of changes with the lines, and as soon as he did that, I just went, I'm going to rewrite the whole thing, which I did. I went and rewrote the whole song again. And that happened quite a bit on this record, where I just, something when I thought I had it, I didn't. And I started from scratch, chucked it in the bin and began again. I think that's a really hard thing for a songwriter to do. And I'm trying really hard to not be so precious, because I think what happens is once you put something down on paper and you've written it or you've typed it on your computer, you have this thought process that tells you that it's finished, and that you can't change it, and that all the lines are precious, and I've worked really, really hard to try and let that go now, where I'm a bit way more of a savage editor when I look at something that I've done. And you know what? Some of the lines that you chuck, they fit better somewhere else. And if you save them, they end up in another song down the track. But yeah, I think that's been a hard lesson for me to learn as a songwriter, to just go, no, this is no good. I'm scribbling 4 lines out or a whole verse, because it just doesn't work.
Yeah. And other than people in the band, do you reflect and throw your music out to other people as sounding boards before you kind of really put it down? Or
my wife has to listen to a lot of my songs. So she'll often be the first one who hears something.
Yeah.
And she'll always let me know if she thinks it's no good or if it's good. It's good when you get sort of honest criticism, and people who know you really well know when you can do better, or when something's working or not working. So yeah, my wife generally is the first person who gets to hear it. Yeah. And then I throw it down a demo, and I'll usually chuck it to all the guys in the band. And because of the way I am, I kind of take on board anyone who'll come back to me with a suggestion. I'll try and find a way to kind of to see it from that point of view, or make a change, or whatever. So I love getting that kind of input. I don't even see it as criticism, it's input. It's people just throwing in their 2 cents worth, whatever it may be. And sometimes that 2 cents worth is just the thing you're looking for. Yeah. I kind of enjoy that part of the process. Whereas other songwriters will kind of hoard and keep their songs and hide them, and no one else hears them until it's all done. I do tend to let the guys run riot over the songs, even with their parts and stuff, and bass lines and guitar parts, and I just kind of let them do their thing.
Yeah. And does it come through from a lyrical start for you with music, and your songs, or is it come from a guitar track? Like, does it mix up a fair bit in amongst your music? There's never a one fit formula.
It's mostly the mix up. Yeah. So like with Every Waking Hour, it was all the words first. With others, I've got a chord. With New Suit, it was that little. That was the first thing. That becomes the springboard, and then usually my little trick is just to sing garbage over the top of that. Just total stream of consciousness nonsense.
Sure.
And I'll just sing it into my phone. It's kind of weird. Every now and then, even when you do that, you get a line. You think that hey, that little bit there just kind of worked. So yeah, it's different every time.
It might have been back in the old days listening to those Beatles albums. They were one of the greats at doing that, just humming nothing over a song, and some of the lyrics just come to your head, and some of those words happen to stick, and the rest of the lyric gets written around that word you might have mentioned at the time. So it's pretty cool. It's a magic of art.
Paul McCartney used to do that, I think. Like, I think Yesterday was originally called Scrambled Eggs, and it was like, scrambled eggs, oh my darling, you've got lovely legs.
Yeah, that's cool, eh?
I don't know how long he's saying that for, but it's it does help the process, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. And just a couple of feedback from friends and that have jumped on, and a difficult but a beautiful listen took him back to another moment in time. Absolutely. And John, who's a good big fan of yours, beautiful song, connects to my memory. So, while sometimes it can drag up the negative emotions around those kind of times, it can be such cathartic healing as well, to also know that we all go through this journey. And while it was such an outpouring of emotion for you on that record, years later, it benefits so many people to hear those words during that time. It's really, really magic of the power of songwriting, isn't it? And storytelling.
Absolutely. And I think, for me personally, it was a way of just working through the grief. It was a good thing for me to be able to do. I was able to pour it out into something and not bottle it up. And I think that's in the end, it's healthy, and it's one of the good. I don't think it matters. You don't have to be a songwriter. You can just be a person writing a diary or whatever it is. If you kind of get your thoughts and feelings down on paper, and not just left or bottled up where you push them down, it's cathartic. And I think for me, it was a really good process.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to touch on a few of the album covers and single covers you've done over time. I think there's some fantastic albums. You just mentioned this one of your mother. What a great shot to have put away in the
isn't it?
Yeah, isn't
That's
it?
her engagement party. Hey, there's even kind of classic 60s box of Resh's DA there on the floor behind her. That doesn't exist anymore, does it?
No, I don't think so. No, even the saucepan on the back corner there, on top of the table, is stuff. And one of the singles on the album as well, Dream Decay, which I'm going to play a little bit of a clip out actually. And once again, some more clips. So it must have been a nice little album with especially the colors. The way the colors used to kind of come together back in the day with cross processing and all sorts of things that used to happen. Tell us a little bit about this one.
That's an oldie. That's almost one of my first releases since as a solo artist. That's a picture of me with my mum and dad. This would have come out in around 2010, somewhere like that. I was in a band before that called Hitchcock's Regret, and that would have been I think it did. It came out before the album, so this was a 4-track EP. And a friend of mine who's a really good graphic artist, his name's Brett Curzon. He's done a lot of the work on my albums over the years in putting my concepts and making them work. Yeah, that's me, mum and dad. That's a picture of when I was in France touring with the band. That was a photo that I took in a venue, actually.
Great shot. And this one in particular,
that's a painting. I've actually got the painting sitting behind me up here on the bookcase. It's right at the end. That's painted by a guy who built a guitar for me. He's a Canadian named Lenny, and he builds guitars. He has a company called Daddy Mojo Guitars. Pretty amazing guitar luthier who's built things for people like The Edge from U2 and Nels Cline from Wilco and Jack White and a whole bunch of people like that. And we've become mates. And he painted 4 paintings for me for that Fever Dreams record. Not only does he build guitars, really beautiful guitars, but he also paints. Yeah, so I was lucky enough to get 4 from him.
Yeah, it's a great image. And I did find this on your Instagram, actually, which is I assume this is the guitar in particular you're referring to, which sits behind you, I'm sure. And wow, what a beautiful guitar. Just tell us a little bit about it.
That is it back there.
Yeah, just tell us about what this baby means to you.
Me and Lenny started talking about that, I think, before the pandemic began. I kind of wanted to. He built me a guitar about 10 years ago, and I wanted a lighter version of the same guitar and a hollow version. Yeah. And we talked about it for ages, and the pandemic got in the way, and there were times when I didn't have any money, and we kept throwing ideas backwards and forwards about what sort of guitar it was going to be. And it was so much fun because, I mean, when you get to sort of choose the pickups that you want to have, the color that you're after, which, by the way, was the same emerald green on Mum's dress in that.
There's a real green theme here happening.
Yeah, there is. It certainly happened that way with this record. And that green color on that guitar made it really special to me. It's its own individual thing.
Yeah, it sure is. It's got a little bit of that airbrush history too, honoring your songwriting background too. So it's kind of cool.
That burst looks like an airbrush burst, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, fantastic to see. And it's not often that you get to collaborate with someone effectively on a build a guitar like that. So be a very special piece.
The nice thing is too is, like, I was really excited about the idea, and Lenny was so excited after he finished it that he's ended up putting it on his website as now a regular model for order.
Yeah, wow, it's a real feat.
Yeah, he's going to keep doing them. So that's kind of really, really nice as well.
Yeah, it sure is. So most importantly, when can people get out and see you again? When are you gigging next?
I'm playing a show in November. I'm playing a show with a guy named Luch Lewis, and we're playing at Mosh Pit in Sydney. I'm not exactly sure what the date is. My drummer at the moment is away in the Philippines, and it's pretty hard to keep just to sort of get my band together. They're all so ridiculously busy. The guy who plays slide guitar and banjo with me is also always gigging like a maniac. Jamie has his own projects. He's got a new solo album coming out of his own. Plus, he fronts a band called Infinity Broke. His old band Blue Bottle Kiss reunited a little while ago. He's just he's a workaholic. Yeah, right. And my bass player is a stonemason who tends to sort of travel away from home a fair bit. So getting everyone together is really, really hard. But yeah, next show is November, and we're doing a show with Luch at Mosh Pit in Sydney.
Okay, fantastic. And is a road trip on the cards at all at any stage down to beautiful Melbourne?
I'd love to think so. I don't know whether it will or whether it'll eventuate. Yeah. Once again, that's going to depend on everybody's schedules. I'd love to get down there again. I haven't got there since because Fever Dreams came out and my mum got sick almost as soon as it came out. Right. And I had plans to go to Melbourne with Jamie. We were doing some shows together, and I ended up having to stay home. Cancelled that and lost it. And then the pandemic happened. So the last time I was in Melbourne was an album that I did called An Ear to the Earth. That was probably around 2015 or something like that. Okay. So it's been quite a while since I've been in Melbourne to play a show. So I'd love to come down and do that at some point. Maybe even if it's two of us, me and Adam might come and do it someday. We've done that a couple of times.
Yeah, there's plenty of cool spots for a little duo. That's for sure. Absolutely. We'll get you on a list there somewhere for sure. We'd love to have you down here. If not, sounds like a November road trip up to see you would be really cool. So
there you go.
Keep that in touch, but check out markmoldre.com, and that all the latest news is going to be on there. So we'll post some things in relation to socials and stuff as you get a little bit closer. But once again, mate, thanks for really coming on. I really appreciate your time tonight. I just wanted to give you a couple of 4 or 5 questions as a bit of a quick fire question to finish off. Give me your favorite artist at the moment that you're listening to.
Probably Jeff Tweedy at the moment is my favorite artist. That changes for me daily. Yeah. But Jeff Tweedy probably at the moment. I've been listening to plenty of Jeff.
Okay, beautiful. Which leads me to probably your favorite artist of all time. I know there's multi-genre, but what would it be if you had to really narrow it down to one?
I mean, we talked about the Beatles. They've probably the most longest standing influence for me has been the Beatles. But probably the other person who had a massive effect on me, and it happened later in life, was Tom Waits. And, you know, I can't imagine going through life without listening to him these days. He had a huge effect on me, but I kind of only maybe discovered him maybe more like about 15 years ago. Yeah, so I discovered him late. But, Tom Waits would be a big one there.
Was that more just a timing thing for you, or in and around your situation, all of a sudden you found him?
I reckon I just didn't get him for ages. I think it's more just gaining musical understanding as time's passed, and listening to things and enjoying things that for whatever reason when I was younger I couldn't get my head around. And I was listening to and playing a lot of jazz, a lot of sort of 50s and 60s jazz around that point in time. That was what I was listening to. And I probably just didn't get it. I didn't get the voice. I wasn't listening closely enough. And now, man, I can't imagine why that would ever have happened.
Isn't it bizarre when you look back and how did I miss them? Or how did I not get them at the time? But yeah, you're right. That's the magic of why there's so many artists and so many songs and so many genres. That there's one for everyone in every hour of the day. I've got a real eclectic mix of different styles of music I listen to. People are like, mate, I didn't pick you for that. And it's like, well, depends what mood I'm in, really.
Yeah. And when you teach guitar, you've got to be that way, because you just don't know what you're going to get asked to play. You've got to be pretty open-minded. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's a good way to play.
Favorite venue you've played at?
The best gig that I ever did was France, and there's no two ways about it. I got to play a festival in France in a little town called Binic. That will remain the most amazing show I ever played. And you know, not a venue, but it was a festival. And that was a really incredible experience, which I'm never ever going to forget. But if I had to pick a favorite venue, it's a venue that's gone. Working at Lazotte's in Kincumber, which was run by Brian Lazotte, who's the brother of Diesel.
Yeah.
He was such a welcoming guy, and the food there was amazing. The way he looked after the bands who came there was incredible. It's just so rare that you find someone who's so hospitable and welcoming. And I played there a lot. I got to open for lots of great people, and I'll never forget that place because of Brian's hospitality. He was an incredible host.
Yeah, doesn't that make a massive difference? Hosts and people that really want you in the venue, and they want you in the venue for more than just trying to bring a crowd and pull a crowd and make a few bucks. You do connect. I know myself, just as a regular punter, we go into a venue and it just makes a difference when you can really feel the different energy in the room when that happens, and you actually feel welcome. And there's no reason for them really to welcome you other than they get it. They get what you mean to. There's no point in the muso playing to no one. It's just not going to happen.
And sadly, it's really rare.
Yeah, it is.
It's it's really rare. You know, I don't know whether it's an Australian thing or whatever it is, but you kind of, you know, you just sort of get told there's your writer, there's your room, see you, mate.
Yeah.
But Brian was incredible, yeah. And it wouldn't matter how many times I played there, you always got treated exactly the same way. You ate food that everyone was eating upstairs. You choose your dinner from the same menu.
Yeah.
He'd make sure that you were really looked after from the beginning of the night to the end of the night. And I reckon that's why there was always so many great people who were always really happy to play there.
Mm. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so many people talk about that venue still. Now, obviously, this is in the situation of you're one of the biggest bands in the world right now. Who's your support? You can have anyone, living or dead.
Oh, that's a toughie. Not that he would ever do it, but I went and saw. I'm a big fan of guitar players, and there's a guy named Bill Frisell. He would to sit and have a chat with him, and to listen to him play guitar. That would probably be my choice. I've seen him play a couple of times. That'd be a weird choice for a band before an opening, but he just seems like a nice guy. And the good thing with the support is you get to usually meet each other backstage and sit around and have a bit of a chat before the show. Yep. That'd probably be the thrill for me. Somebody like him. Mark Rebo, who played guitar for Tom Waits, he'd be another one. Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of leading me into my last question for you tonight, Mark, and thanks again for joining us, spending an hour with us. How quickly an hour's flown by. So it's incredible, but we'll finish it around now. But what I wanted to do is just one of the boys would normally ask, we give him about one question to ask, and this would be it. You're hosting a dinner party. You and 5 other guests. They can be living or dead. Who's at your table?
I'd have to say my mum first for starters, because I definitely want my mum there, and probably my dad as well. Yeah, mum and dad. They'd be the first two. My wife.
We'll make them one, so that's cool.
Mum and dad are one. If I was thinking more, if you're thinking more, just people who I'd love to sit around and talk to. Well, I guess kind of what I was just saying then. I love talking to other guitarists and talking guitar. That's probably something I really enjoy doing. So there'd be people probably like Neil Young. I love his guitar playing. I've always loved his guitar playing. He's an interesting character. Bill Frisell and Mark Rebo. Tom Waits. I mean, how could you not have Tom Waits at the table? He's the greatest storyteller of all time. You never know whether he's telling the truth or not.
Yeah.
So, and I reckon if you had Mark Rebo and Tom Waits sitting together at the table, you'd probably get a lot of great stories. So maybe those two, Bill Frisell, Neil Young, mum and dad. How's that?
Yeah, wow. What a table. That'd be cool. Be cool. And something to put your head on the pillow tonight and think of how cool that would be. Tell yourself some stories about some of the things that you'd tell them. And even though you feel like you've got nothing to tell them, I'm adamant you would have some great stories to tell. So, look, it's been really nice to meet you in this environment, Mark, and spend an hour with us having a chat to us and whoever else listens on later. But we really wish you all the best for this new album. It's exciting to get it out there. There's so many people putting out good music now, and especially as powerful an album as this has been for you. It's an emotive one, no doubt, and we look forward to having it out in the world and letting it do its thing.
Really appreciate you having me on, Aaron. That was great chat. Really enjoyed it.
Great. No worries at all. I'm going to finish off with one of your clips from one of your songs, Dream Decay. I think it's a beautiful clip, and once again shows your great prowess to putting together clips that really support your songs. So long may it continue.
Thank you, Aaron. Thanks a lot, buddy.
No worries. We'll talk soon.
Explosion of put out of a fire, mysteriously buried deep in your eye. Mom Mama, don't you leave me here. The coast is warm this time of year. It's unusually warm this time of year. I'm awake, hit the brakes. Here's 4 capsules for your backache. Gaff tape, kidnap, Halloween. 2 men standing by the guillotine. We stole their bodies for the final scene. This is a dream decay. Follow the lights, it's another day. This is a dream decay. Wake up, I don't wanna stay. Well, slow trains burn and sweat. This coffee tastes like cigarettes. Cut it out, but it's still alive. Trash collector on the road to life. Cut the cord with a butter knife. This is a dream decay. Open your eyes, it's another day. This is...
There we go. Dream Decay. I'm going to leave that there. And if you want to check out the rest of the song, markmoldre.com. Make sure you check it out. It's been fantastic to have you all part of this journey with us on episode 96 of So What's Been Happening. Tomorrow night, we've got an exciting one. We're going again Wednesday night with Chris Carapetta, which is another one of Chris Hamilton's lineup that he promotes. So look forward to having a chat to him. That'll be really exciting as well. So please join us tomorrow night. And once again, I'd like to thank every one of our guests that we've had on all shows so far. Here they are. And have a great week. We'll see you tomorrow night. Hopefully you can catch us. See you soon.